What makes you afraid? Some of All Fear lives at the crossroads between our greatest phobias and the horror movies we love to experience. Part pop culture and part psychology. It's time to find out why we're all so scared of the dark.
Are you okay?
I am out.
What was in your eye?
I don't know. Bastard.
Bastard.
It might still be there. Okay.
Are you okay?
We're gonna later.
Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
I'm not gonna turn myself on mute.
Don't mute yourself this time.
Touch up here.
We did a few minutes of the segment with mute on. That doesn't work. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Yeah. Today is Mother's Day.
I'm only a mother because of you and Katie. So,
no, you're a mother. You're a mother because you're a mother, and you've accepted motherhood.
Happy Mother Lovers Day.
That's right, mother love.
To all
it's already passed for all the people that are listening.
To all you mother lovers out there.
That's right. I'm going to be a mother lover.
Are you a mother lover? Thank you, Justin Timberlake, for that gold.
Yeah, and we had our first Sinister Sunday horror movie night last week.
That was a lot of fun.
It was a ton of fun on Cinco de Mayo.
Everybody that showed up. That was really cool. There
was a pretty damn good crowd. I was actually really excited about how many people showed up. It was a pretty cool little group of people and a good handful that we had never met before that just showed up. And we watched Dusk Till Dawn, which was really fun. We got to see a lot of vampire boobies.
Man.
And George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino Harvey Keitel
getting fed milk drip down what's her face's toes.
That wasn't who'd you say? Oh, was that Tarantino?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tarantino. Yeah,
yeah.
Tarantino, yeah, Salma Hayek.
I couldn't remember her name.
Yeah, that was money. That whole dance sequence is pretty hot.
It's intense.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I don't even like snakes.
Yeah. And it's gnarly.
That snake was pretty.
So yeah, it was cool. It was very cool. We were at Taste Chicago in downtown Reno, and I think I have not seen any other horror movie nights around town, and that's why we started it, because we want to bring this Reno horror community together. It'd be cool. Yeah. We do this obviously, and there's a lot of people that listen from all over the place. But I know a lot of people in town that are horror fans, and we don't have any place to kind of get together and hang out and just veg out for a bit and drink some booze and watch some movies.
Nerd out over horror.
Yeah.
Together.
So, so it was really fun. It was really cool. Dusk Till Dawn was a fun movie. We did it. It was Cinco de Mayo. They had all kinds of fun food specials and drink specials and drank a lot of tequila.
There was a taco pizza.
That's why I'm on. Any of that? That's why I got my tequila now. I'm going tequila and squirt, which was that was an old drink that I used to drink when I lived in Chicago. And I'm kind of getting tired of whiskey at the moment. I'm kind of giving myself a whiskey break.
I think whiskey might be tired of you too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my liver is tired of whiskey. So we're switching to tequila because I've heard tequila does you no harm to your body.
Oh, really?
Not at all. Yeah, there's a scientific study.
Was it at like 33 different Ivy League schools?
It was. Yeah, it was a very, very in-depth double blind study.
Placebo.
Sponsored by Patron. That proved that tequila is actually very good for you.
Oh.
Yeah, sponsored by Jose Cuervo. So tonight we are actually leaving straight from podcasting time to our second horror movie night, and we're going to be doing Reanimator tonight.
Which I love that movie.
So that'll be fun. That's tonight.
I really wanted you to show the Joe Bob one, but we're going to show the DVD version.
Oh yeah. Well, I just got the Arrow Video Blu-ray, which I've never been a big like movie collector of like the actual hard copies of movies of anything. But I think I'm going to start collecting Blu-rays. Yeah. Yeah, I think I am. And they have so many extras. Like the Reanimator deal has a whole documentary. It's got all the cool commentaries. It's got deleted scenes. It's got all kinds of cool shit.
We should play that before.
I'm going to. Yeah, I'm going to start it. I'm going to start the extras early. And then that way people can, kind of get some of the cool extra stuff beforehand.
That'd be so much fun.
That's my plan. So we'll see. And then next week, if you're listening and you're listening before Sunday the 19th, we're going to show, I think next week we're going to show Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, I love that.
Because I bought it when I was at Barnes & Noble. I saw it and they had a cool DVD with a bunch of extras. And so I was like, I'm going to buy Sleepaway Camp. And I love Felissa Rose. I love.
Wait.
That movie has got such a cool like resurgence lately.
Is this the one with the guitar or the guitar screw serial?
No. That's Slumber Party Massacre 2.
Damn it.
With the Rockabilly Driller Killer.
Yes.
Yes,
the rockabilly drill. I thought that's what we were doing.
No, that would be a great one too, though. Shit, I gotta get that one on Blu-ray. That would be a really cool one too.
We were doing that.
No, Sleepaway Camp is the one with Felissa Rose
Mangled Dick expert.
Mangled Dick expert Felissa Rose, where she's at camp and she's
certified Mangled Dick expert Felissa Rose.
It's not the same movie, but that is a great one that we should show as well. That would actually be, that one's just good splatter fun from start to finish.
Well, and it's like a musical, and
there's a lot of great. Good. There's some kick-ass tunes in there,
gold.
Man.
It's comedy gold.
But welcome back, Feardos. Thanks for coming back. Episode 15.
Wow.
I'm Drew, and this is my wife, Kris.
Hello.
And in case you didn't already know, we are the new power couple of podcasting. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Oh God.
Did you know that?
Why are you such a liar?
It's true. We're the new I don't know are there any podcasting power couples out there that you know of?
The Sawbones.
Oh yeah.
Somebody
compared us to them a while back, which
I think that
was pretty high praise.
Very lofty, but I can't say I don't Appreciate it. That's a high praise.
That's a nice comparison. But if you haven't listened to the show before, welcome. And Kris is a super smart mental health therapist. And I have got a degree in history and like watching Kevin Bacon get stabbed in the neck with an arrow. So if you like the show,
that's the only thing you like. That's why you started.
That's one of the things.
Oh man, I love Kevin Bacon getting shot with an arrow.
Getting stabbed through the neck.
Podcast.
Getting stabbed through the neck with an arrow. That's fun. Let's start a podcast. If you like the show, guys, please, we really, really, really would appreciate it. If you go to your podcast apps and give us a review. And a rating. We haven't had too many ratings in a while, and we haven't had too many reviews. So maybe it's just because, your mama taught you if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Which in today's society,
which makes sense. We appreciate that. That's self-control. Yeah, I appreciate that. But if you do have something to say,
that could be constructive.
That's constructive. Yeah. I mean, I don't care if you give us 1 star and say you guys suck balls. That's not very constructive.
Poor form.
But if you said, I really would appreciate it if you had a different voice, or could you change everything about what you do because it all sucks? Okay, that's a little bit more constructive. At least it's giving us some advice. So go to your podcast apps, give us a rating and a review. Check out our social media. We have a ton of social media stuff. We have
thanks to this guy right here.
I do the social media stuff.
He wakes up and goes to bed social media.
I try.
Always at work. I try.
I mean, it's a dog eat dog world out there, and you have to, you gotta rise to the top.
You're a hardworking man.
There's a lot of mixing metaphors that we can do here.
There is. Let's do it. I love a good metaphor.
We're on Facebook.
I'm a meta whore.
Meta whore. You're meta horror.
Metaphor whore.
Horror. Meta whore.
Oh man, it's one of those like she sells seashells by the seashore kind of sentence.
That's true. We could do that. But yeah, we're on Facebook at Some of All Fear Podcast. Go to Twitter and Instagram at Some of All Fear Pod. And as of a couple of days ago, due to a couple of people who requested it, we have a Patreon page.
What?
Which is what I guess podcast people do to have people give them money to do podcasting.
Wait, are we podcast people now?
I suppose we are. We're 15 episodes in. I think we're podcast people.
Ooh.
We're podcast new power couple. I already told you that.
What happens when you become podcast people though?
I don't know. I don't know. I think you're supposed to I don't think you're supposed to see the light of the day. We are podcast people.
Oh God. That sounds like a good horror movie.
Like pod people?
Yeah.
Podcast people?
Podcast people.
But we really want to expand the podcast. We're looking to get some shirts and some hoodies and stickers and all that fun stuff. And so mugs. So I'm going to say it right now, the first 5 people to support our Patreon page are going to get some free swag like right away. Whatever we get. So if we have...
Treat yourself.
So if you're the first 5 people to support the page, right now we're just doing a $5 a month thing. We haven't set up many tiers or any of that stuff, but eventually we'll probably do a few tiers and do different things. But we're going to get some swag ordered. We're going to get some stickers and some coffee mugs maybe to start, and then some t-shirts.
Treat yourself.
And then some hoodies.
Treat yourself.
Treat
your mom.
So yeah. So if you sign up on our Patreon and do $5 a month to support us, help support the podcast, we will definitely get you out some cool shit.
Swag.
In pretty short order.
Everybody loves swag.
We're gonna get some stuff going here soon. So
man,
check it out. It's patreon.com/someofallfear podcast.
You are always cooking up something.
I'm trying to just slowly add little things. We're videotaping this podcast.
I know.
We're gonna put that up on our Patreon page. That'll be a Patreon.
You know
extra.
what this reminds me of? This reminds me of when I was in graduate school and they made us videotape our therapy sessions for practice, and we would go back and we would like break that tape down. And just like a football player, after the game.
Yeah, you got to. When I was in, I took preaching classes and multiple public speaking classes when I was in college.
Well, I know why you sound so preachy sometimes. Then.
Well, I'm always you know why I sound so preachy anyway. It's just in my blood. But when I was, we did that too. We videotaped them, and the whole thing was broken down. They would break it down in front of the class. So it wasn't even like you'd get with the professor later. It was like after, as soon as you were done, it was like, yep. Don't do this. Don't do this. You look like an asshole. Do you talk like an asshole? Here's, and so it was really pretty annoying. So
it sounds like they
by the way, Sleepaway Camp. Here, I'll hold it up for the video. I have it up right here, my DVD. There you go.
It sounds like they did a lot of like, you should reflect on how this sounds coming out of your mouth. Kind of
enunciating
teachings.
And doing all those things. And the way that it looks. And the way that you
like the literal sound. And don't be so literal. Like how it sounds when you say something, how other people are going to interpret it.
Right.
How they take it.
And body language and all those things are huge. Yeah. So anyways, boring you on that. But let's get into so visit our Patreon. That's cool. Horror movie night.
Yay.
Every Sunday night at 8 p.m. at Taste of Chicago. So if you're a Reno listener, and whether you're a friend or not a friend, or just like horror movies, if you're one of our friends and you like horror movies, please come out. If you're not one of our friends that we don't know yet, you're going to be a friend very soon, and you're already a friend because you're a listener of the podcast. Please come out and visit us. We would love to meet you, and we would love to enjoy cool horror movies together
and create that Feardo community.
Feardo community. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I said on the Patreon. I said, Some of All Fear podcast, creating a Feardo community.
Oh, that's just heartwarming.
So that's the goal. And I think we'll get some Feardo shirts, like shirts that say Feardo maybe with our logo. Maybe like the logo on the front and like Stay Afraid on the back or something like that. One of those kind of one of the little sayings.
So I prefer like just a logo on the front and with a saying. I don't know about you, but I don't like shirts with like
anything on the back
on. So it's either the back or the front for me.
Wow.
But we should have a talk about that.
You only like it from the front, not from the back?
It's either.
Oh, so you like it from the back and the front.
Yes.
But at different times.
Yes.
Not at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, depending on what I'm feeling that day. I like my shirt's logo from the back or from the front.
All right. Well, we are going to do What the Fear, our favorite game show.
Woo.
And we're gonna keep it with me testing you, I think, right?
I know. You said you really wanted to do that. So.
No, you said you really wanted to do that. You said you liked it better that way.
You said you liked it better.
Liar. You're the one you're like, this is better. I like this.
No, your exact words were, I feel better hosting it.
Now, Lacey, our contrarian friend, that's what I'm just going to dub her, because even though she just like gives like little minor things, which I love her comments because it helps. But I'm going to call her like our contrarian friend, Lacey, because she's the only person that ever gives us feedback, which we really appreciate. But she said she prefers it with you. With you answering the questions.
Have you seen Lacey? I prefer it with Lacey too.
Oh, hey. Hi-oh.
But no, you shouldn't.
Awkward next time we see you, Lacey.
You shouldn't call her our contrarian friend, because it feels negative. Does it not feel negative to you?
It's a good thing.
How? Because
I said she's our contrarian friend, but then I backed up and said it's a good thing. So we'll continue to call her that, but she should know to continue to bring good, positive, constructive feedback, because it's appreciated.
Did you happen to fail that preaching class
Shut
by
up.
any chance?
Suck it. Can you give us our intro to our game show here? It's the world's greatest phobia-based trivia game, by the way.
Time.
Is it time?
For the world's greatest phobia-based trivia game. fear? You say it now.
What the fear?
There you go. Okay, you have to say it like that.
All right, it's time for What the Fear.
What the fear?
What the Fear. This is going to be a fun one.
Okay.
I like it.
I dare you to make it fun.
It's going to, you dare me to make it fun. I dare you to make it fun.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Well, just wait till you have to try to spell this one.
Oh, I bet you I can.
Oh, you think so, huh?
Yeah, bring it on, bitch.
Damn. You're just, what's going on? Is it a full moon? What's going on?
I don't know, it might be. I'm frisky.
Damn. All right. So, America's favorite. Actually, I said world's greatest. Oh, by the way, you're on mute again. Unmute. Now what?
Now what?
Do we start over?
What?
Do we start over since you were on mute the whole time?
Can't you just cut out that whole?
No, they'll probably just hear you in the background.
I know.
So now you're back here with us. I don't know why you use the mute button anyway.
I don't. It's where I grab this thing.
Don't grab the microphone.
And then the button.
We should tape over it.
But then it would hold it down.
Probably.
So,
all right. You ready for What the Fear?
Yes.
Are you ready for What the Fear?
I'm ready.
All right. So I don't know what happened in the beginning there. I don't know if anybody could hear, but it's What the Fear time.
It's What the Fear time.
All right. The first word, your first word. Are you ready for this first word?
I'm so ready.
It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 letters long. It's a big word.
Yeah.
Didascalinophobia. Didascalinophobia. Are those
pine cones?
Pine cones falling on our? Okay.
Yeah,
I think
that terrified me really quickly. Okay, can you say
didascalinophobia? Can I use it in a sentence? No, I cannot.
No, shut up. I need you to just say it slower.
Didascalinophobia. Are you ready?
What's the root? Is it Greek, Latin?
I have no idea.
What the fuck?
What the fear? You never gave me the root.
If you had wanted the root, if you had ever asked, but half the time you were like, I don't even need a hint. I'm just going to guess.
It's whatever.
Okay.
I am going
Didascalinophobia?
I'm going to come across this desk at some point today. I don't know what's going on.
Don't you threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, whatever. And smack you up, woman. All right. I'm going to smack you up real good. Are you ready for your hint? Would you like your hint?
I can have my hint now.
Okay. The hint is people with this fear might be a big fan of Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall. Now, you have to kind of know the lyrics to Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall for this hint to work. So if you don't know the lyrics to Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall, I would be happy to give you a little bit more.
Will you sing them?
Well, no, wait. Do you know them though?
I know. All in all, you're just another brick in the wall.
Do you know what comes before that though?
I feel like I do, but I need some help like kickstarting my memory.
There's some children singing. Do you remember what they're singing? You can do this. I know your memory of all things is just not good. So many concussions. So many concussions. So little retention.
Need no education.
There you go. Yes.
All in all, you're just a
Yep.
that one. Okay, okay, I got that. So we don't need no education.
Okay. People with this fear might be a big fan of Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall.
Because they feel like they don't need an education?
Maybe. We still have to fear something.
Didascalinophobia.
Mm-hmm.
Didascalinophobia.
Mm-hmm.
Didaskalina phobia.
EINO.
Wait.
But close.
What?
Didascalinophobia.
N-O.
Phobia.
Fuck.
Yeah. I'm not
so
sure. That was
close.
pretty damn good though.
Thank
not
you.
Not bad.
Props. Okay.
Yeah, well done.
Didascalinophobia.
People with this fear might be a big fan of Pink Floyd's Another Brick of the Wall. In the Wall. We don't need no education.
Additional clarification required.
We don't need no mind control.
Which lyric is that about?
That's a good question. Let's say, I'll give you a hint. It leans more towards the first line of that.
Okay. So
of that child mantra.
Are we taking it literally? Like,
let's just get a guess in here. How about that?
How about the fear of teachers?
Very close. So damn close.
Fear of professors? Fear of learning?
No. Close. Oh my gosh, it's all right there.
Fuck!
You're all right there. It's the fear of school. The fear of school. Well done.
I would have gone like pencils, paper, books.
Fear of teachers is close enough. I think that's a win right there. I would give you that as a win. Fear of teachers is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Pretty damn
With
good.
that plus the spelling, I could.
Did you like my hint?
Now and feel really good about.
Did you like that? Did you like that hint?
I did.
Was that fun?
Did you like that? I actually remembered it.
I did.
Without help,
which is very
very
rare.
Here's to your wife not
any sort of lyric,
Alzheimer's.
memory or name
Names.
or anything is a win. All right, you ready for your second one?
Yeah.
Good job. I am impressed. You did well. Your second one is linonophobia.
What?
Linonophobia. Linonophobia. Or linonophobia. Linonophobia. One of those. Linonophobia, I think, is the way to pronounce it. Would you like me to spell it for you?
No, Lino phobia.
That's incorrect, but that's okay. Linono phobia.
Oh, I was one off.
One off. Not bad. Well done. I mean, it wasn't a very hard one.
Meh.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah. What's my hint?
All right. If you've got linonophobia, you might wear Velcro or slip-on shoes.
Fear of shoelaces.
Close. Right there. You're right there. Not bad.
Fear of...
Probably wouldn't fly a kite either. Come on. You can do this.
No, I can't think.
The password is linonophobia.
Wait, you might not fly a kite?
You might not fly a kite. Yeah.
What do kites and shoes have in common?
Oh, what don't they have in common? What do kites and shoes have in common? You know, that's a question they've been pondering.
Fear of string?
Yes. That is absolutely 100% correct.
Damn.
That is exactly correct.
Yay.
Well done.
Okay.
Fear of string.
Good hints, man. These are fun hints. I like the first one, the song lyric. That was clever.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I like hosting. I think I'm, in another life I should have been a game show host.
I think in this life.
In this life, I might still be a game show host.
What if we got a horror based?
What if Alex Trebek, God bless his soul, with his pancreatic cancer? I'm sure they already have a replacement.
Put that evil
set up,
on him, Ricky Bobby.
They've already been interviewing his replacements because he was supposed to retire in a couple of years.
What?
True story. And I'm not on that list.
Do you know what we say to the god of death?
Not today. We're going to have a lot of Game of Thrones in this episode. There is so much Game of Thrones going on in the world right now.
A lot. Okay.
One more episode left. Oh, another new one tonight.
Yeah.
We haven't, oh man.
We're going to put it on at the bar.
Well, no, we can't. We're watching horror movies. We'll be putting it on when we get home. It's on
at 6:00
every night. No, we don't have HBO Go out there. Are you ready for your last one?
I'm ready.
Okay. Our last phobia for today. I would say you're 2 for 2. I would give you both of them. Yeah, fear of teachers, fear of school. That's close enough. And fear of string. Well done.
Thank you.
Good job. 2 for 2. Let's go for 3. All right. The third one, and I think the most fun of all 3 of these, is blenophobia. Blenophobia. Blenophobia.
What?
Blenophobia.
What?
We make phobias fun. We make all your fears.
Blemophobia?
We make all your fears the butt of our jokes, people.
Blemo? No, you do.
We make all your fears the the butt of our jokes.
No, I respect them. Blemo.
I respect them. Oh, pinky out.
What? I do.
Whatever. Blenophobia. Would you like me to spell it for you?
Yeah.
BLENNO phobia. BLENNO phobia. You're gonna love this clue too.
Okay. So what's the clue?
You thought my Pink Floyd clue was good.
Oh man.
This one's gonna be even better.
Okay.
Someone with blenophobia would not be able to compete on Double Dare. Someone with blenophobia would not be able to compete on Double Dare. Remember Double Dare, kids? That beautiful game show from our childhood, hosted by Mark Summers. Was that right?
Yeah.
Was that Mark Summers?
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yeah, and they had like the games where you had to dive into like stuff and get that was like in a nose that looked like boogers.
Well, we just watched the Goldberg episode where they were talking about double. Remember, there's a Goldberg episode about Double Dare where they.
I think I've missed that.
Where him and Grandpa go on together because
right.
he ghosted out his friend, the girl that's like his best buddy, because he thought it would be more of a hook for Grandpa to be on with him, but Grandpa didn't know what the fuck he was doing.
Oh, Grandpa.
Yeah. So, do you got a guess for me though?
What he's doing with the.
We got blenophobia here. We're waiting.
Fear of slime.
It's gonna be the longest What the Fear segment ever.
Fear of slime.
That is correct.
Hell yeah.
Fear of slime. 3 for 3. I give way too good of hints. That's what I'm coming down to here. I'm not giving you any credit. It's my hints.
Go ahead. Take the credit.
100%.
They were good.
They're pretty good hints, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
I'm a better hint maker than you are.
Are you just going to tear every aspect of it?
I'm going to say, without a doubt, I make better hints than you.
I'm so glad that my self-esteem has
nothing
to do with what you say.
I mean,
I'm giving you
total credit for getting them correct, but I make some pretty damn good hints. I'm pretty proud. I'm pretty proud of them.
That's taking the credits away.
This is a backhanded compliment. Have you heard of these things? These backhanded compliments? I hear they're almost as good as regular compliments.
If you serve them up properly.
If you serve up a backhanded compliment the right way, you might feel slightly good about yourself.
You're like the Anthony Jeselnik of my heart. Tear me down,
That's why
baby.
you love me.
Tear me down.
That's why you love me, because
tear me down farther.
You do love asshole comics. You really like them. Yeah,
I love assholes in general.
It's true. That's why you married me. Oh, so much fun. All right. Well, I think that was a pretty long What the Fear segment. So we should probably dive into our phobia for today, which also is going to be
super
pretty intense. We are talking today. We haven't even introduced our phobia.
No, we didn't even scratch it.
Not even touch the surface of this one. But holy shit, probably the earliest phobia known to man, I would say. Don't you think?
Oh gosh, I can't make that kind of speculation. I'm not an anthropologist.
Don't you think that's probably the most primal fear of humans of all time?
So I do.
I mean, is there anything else?
That it stems from an ancient primal fear or learned traumatic event, but
it's got to be the earliest. I would think it's probably the earliest phobia.
I wasn't around to study early hominids. So yeah, I can't make that statement, but I'd like to think that would be true.
I would think it's probably, it's got to go back there.
It's pretty.
I mean, it certainly is older than aerophobia,
but it's not older than spiders.
No, but.
And them shits is really scary. We know.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But I think this one's probably goes back. I think this one goes back a ways. It's got to be one of the earliest, most ancient phobias of all time.
Do you think?
Anyways, moving on, we are talking today about pyrophobia. Which we hit this on our alphabetical list as arson phobia, but I thought that sounded kind of shitty, so we went with the other term for it, which is pyrophobia.
Arsonophobia?
Arsonophobia. Arson phobia.
Or arson phobia.
Arson phobia.
So not Arsenio, like Arsenio Hall?
Not like Arsenio Hall, not like...
That's Arsenio Hall phobia.
Not like that, no. No, pyrophobia is the phobia, and it is the fear of fire, which is a pretty big one.
We get it.
We had arachnophobia last week. This one's these are heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, these are the heavy hitters.
Probably humanity's first fear. I really do think so. That's my opinion.
You heard it here, people.
That's my opinion. I wasn't there, but I'm pretty sure.
Probably.
Could be. So let's get into our phobia for today, pyrophobia. Hey, Kris.
Hey, Drew.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Why, yes, I have.
When we were trying to get this podcast off the ground, we had a lot of questions. Like, how do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen to? How do we make money podcasting? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now just by reading this ad.
Right now?
Right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Right now?
That means if you want to get a podcast going and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. Join me and Kris and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. We can't wait to hear your podcast. All right, our phobia for today is pyrophobia, the fear of fire.
Yeah.
The fear of fire. I was thinking about this one. We live with this fear where we live on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Because we live in northern Nevada, and anybody who lives in the West, or in, like, especially if you live in California or in Nevada or Colorado, or, you're almost always have this fear of wildfires that can happen at any moment.
Right.
And we've been seeing these fires in California recently that literally have been wiping out whole cities. And sometimes they're not even in like the Paradise fire was in, I've been to Paradise many times. I have family and friends who lost homes in that fire. That campfire from last year,
right,
from 2018. It was horrendous. It was horrible. Wiped out literally
so
an entire town. I mean, like an entire town. And it moved so fast that people, they didn't have
time to escape. They didn't have a moment to think, to get anything.
It was the deadliest wildfire in California history. Is that right? I believe it was.
I don't know.
Something like that.
It was awful.
But it was horrible. But I remember another one from, and I can't remember the town, but it was south of, or west of Napa, but kind of a more suburban town from 2 years ago that burned. Was it Santa Clarita, Santa Clara? I can't remember. Anyways, it was up near north of the Bay Area, and it burned through an entire suburban residential neighborhood. And I remember looking at it and going, those are the areas that are not supposed to burn. Just burn on, just like go, right? Like you think you're safe. You're in this.
Feel safe.
You feel safe. You're in this suburban area. There's not a lot of trees. It's very like just houses and kind of like a very like blocky, little boxes kind of community. Little boxes on a hillside.
Little boxes made of ticky-tacky.
You love that song.
I do.
That was the beginning of Weeds, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Too?
Yeah. And they all look just the same.
So I when I was kind of researching this phobia, like I thought a lot about this because we live, I mean, if you're looking on the video, you might be able to see our backyard, but we have tons of trees.
Yeah, like this shit's green, but like this is green behind it.
But the shit right like brown. Over there is just sagebrush.
Yeah,
and right Nevada sagebrush, and we have wildfires here all the time. Yeah. And we've had some that go all the way down to the city.
We had one in that gulch.
We had one literally behind our house last year that was small. It got put out pretty quick, but we have them all over the place. Right. We have them all the time, and it's a fear that we live with constantly. And we're buying a new home this year. And that's one of the things that I keep thinking when I'm like, oh, I would love to live there. And then I'm like, oh, but it backs up to sagebrush. And, I don't know. Should we move there? Should we not move there? Is it a good
you just get
place for wildfires? Just go get good insurance and make sure you have your, get out of Dodge bag or whatever.
It's like people that live at the base of, active volcanoes. It's
right. Fire is, like I said,
it might happen one day.
It's probably the most ancient fear that we have. It's something that is very ingrained in us, that fire bad, fire is bad.
So,
like, stay away.
My big question was, and I agree with you. Fire is dangerous. It's powerful. It's an event. It is not a thing. It's an event. Fire creates a chemical reaction where the heating releases volatile vapors from whatever it's burning, and then it rapidly combusts with the oxygen in the air, and the resulting incandescent bloom of gas further heats the fuel. So it literally creates its own fuel from its fuel to power itself. So, and it like chemistry, holy crap.
Yeah.
It is an event, not a thing. Do
you remember what they said about the campfire? About how
it created its own atmosphere.
The plant,
and
the plant life, though, about the plant life actually creating. I think you were telling me this.
The plant life. I had read an article that because of the California droughts, the plant life had basically kind of sucked out all its nutrients and stuff. It had been giving off this gas that was very subtle as part of the chemical process of processing water, and osmosis and all that fun stuff. And that actually helped to fuel the fire. It
basically created a
an even more combustible reactant. So it's like, instead of it reacting like it was covered, like a log covered in water, it would react like a log covered in gas.
Because the ground cover knows environmentally, in God's creation, these things, these miraculous.
Apparently,
these things know that they need to burn. That these things need to be cleared out, because at some point, nature, by the way it works, is that eventually, especially when you live out west, that the forests, they need to be burned.
Yeah.
And then you burn down, and then they regrow. That's what it's a healthy thing for
apparently
these things
that
to happen.
happens. Obviously, that would happen more frequently if there was this negative humidity, which I thought that was an interesting concept. That that the forests, or that things that are combustible can create negative humidity and emit those gases even more based on that negative humidity. So interesting. So cool. I'm not at all in that field. I just read an article on it, but very fascinating. But I mean, there's a reason to fear fire, right?
Yeah.
So my ultimate question, kind of tying back
it burns you.
Tying way back into
I got a little sunburn on my neck yesterday, and it hurts a little bit.
Tying way back into what I tangented on a few minutes ago was the idea that if we couldn't feel pain, would we fear fire? Probably not.
Well, if we didn't feel pain, we probably wouldn't fear sharp objects, or there's a number of things probably that we wouldn't fear if we didn't feel pain, right? So no, I don't think we would. I mean, it'd be cool. You could stand in the middle of a fire and it'd be fun. It would still burn you. It would still burn you.
You would still get
die.
Damage, but you just wouldn't feel pain. So would you fear fire if you didn't get the damage?
So think
not damage, but pain.
Think of as a child, right? One of the very first things that you learn is don't touch. That's hot.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Do not touch. Don't touch that. It's hot. And pain receptors are a weird deal, right? I mean, we know some people don't have. There are people who don't have those pain receptors. There's disorders, right? Where they can put their hand on a hot stove top and not feel that burning sensation.
Well,
but then they look at their arm and it's burned down to the bone.
So that doesn't necessarily have to do with the pain receptors. It has to do with the receptors in the brain. Or in the spinal column that experience pain. Right. So those are the things that transmit
the nerves.
The
it's a nervous system disorder where they don't have those nerves. They don't feel that. So
but
what is
dangerous.
What is it that, I mean, we think of fire. We think of fire in almost a mystical way, right? Fire is one of those early human experiences that it's beautiful. It's powerful. It's one of those basic earth elements, right? I mean, there was always gods
wind,
of fire,
water.
Right? Yeah. There's always a god of fire. And we see it in biblical times, the concepts of hell, right? Burning,
right?
Those things, the devil and hell, and that's also associated with fire, right? fiery lake of burning sulfur. Those were all things that are mentioned in these ancient texts and Greek mythology. And you have Hades, and you have all of these people that are associated with fire, right? So fire is it's a big thing with people, and it heats our houses, and it makes our food, and there's so many things that it does practically as well.
Right.
But what is the basis of the fear of it? What is the like crux of like what makes it, something that we fear?
I mean, it's like you said, it's primal, it's traumatic, it's learned from growing up and people telling you, don't touch that. That's bad. That's, something that can hurt you. And I think that's the basis of it, is that it can cause physical damage. It can also cause psychological damage, which, creation of a phobia takes an element of psychological damage to kind of form. So for instance, our friend from Taste of Chicago, his car lit on fire while he was inside of his garage.
In his garage, yeah.
And we
were just talking to him about that.
Like 3rd-degree burns on his leg that were massive.
And then had to watch his
prize
the things that he loves. Yeah, the thing that this beautiful classic car burn, in his garage.
And so that really leaves an emotional scar on you. And so then from then on, every time you see fire, it's like that's the brain receptors and that's the pathways that are lit up most quickly. Emotional pathways. Anything tied to emotion in the brain automatically gets lit up before anything else in those situations. It's like hyper overdrive. And people with this phobia are really unable to tolerate even well-controlled small fires. So they see that physiological stress response, even with the smell of smoke. They will constantly or compulsively start checking the stoves or candles, or they won't even have it in there.
No candles.
No
candles. No roasting marshmallows over an open campfire.
They will compulsively check the batteries and the smoke detectors, things that can kind of prevent that event or that fear from occurring, that physiological response to the fear from occurring, I should say. And that does, it comes down to what you were talking about earlier of fear of wildfires in wildfire prone areas. It's a real fear.
Yeah.
Like we have a reason to be afraid of it.
We do.
Even
in the backyard, like we have a very kind of a lush backyard, but in the summertime when we have people over and we're smoking cigarettes or
not me,
or put a fire pit in the backyard. I really, when the wind starts blowing, I'm very, very freaked out by an ember.
Yeah.
Because an ember could go into behind the house and start a massive fire that could burn the whole city down.
Yeah. So there was one case that I was reading about in the UK where an individual feared even a lit match and would start breaking out into a sweat.
Wow.
Like just physiological responses that occur, not just emotional responses.
Well, and that's similar to phobias. A lot of phobias have that physiological response, right? So it's just like every other phobia, whereas there's all those same characteristics. We talk about phobias all the time on the show. They have those same characteristics: panic, sweat, whatever, all those same physiological things.
You have a reason to be afraid though when you get burned. So like one of the clients that I was seeing a long time ago, he was homeless and he was standing over a fire one night and had a seizure and fell in and had burns that covered 80% of his body.
Wow.
And was in the hospital for years, and they had to amputate some limbs. I don't remember what.
Skin grafts and probably all kinds of stuff.
Just everything. And what I learned is that burns cause an inflammatory response in your skin. So your white blood cells, go to the areas and cause inflammation to help, the process of healing begin.
Sure.
But what that does is it greatly reduces your blood pressure really quickly, which can induce shock. So being burned can induce shock that can kill you. Even after you've been burned, the burns have to be exercised. So when you're in the hospital with severe burns, every joint has to be exercised multiple times a day. as the skin is healing so that it can heal properly. And it's agonizing.
Oh.
There's no relief for that kind of pain. But luckily nowadays, someone who has 90% burns over their whole body can actually be successfully treated and survive.
That's
Whereas,
amazing.
just a few short years ago, someone with 60% had almost no chance. So, there's a real testament to medicine to being able to heal and repair after the burn. But I think after an event like that, there would be an inherent fear of fire and not wanting to go through that experience again of being burned.
I can't imagine.
I mean, being burned is such an intense feeling. That's why in America, it's one of the least popular ways to commit suicide.
Yeah, burning yourself alive would not be the best way to go.
It's like 1% of suicides in America are suicide by it's called self-immolation. So about 1% in the US or high income countries, I should say. But in developing countries, it's more like 40%. 40% suicides are
by fire?
Self-immolation.
Well, and there's religious aspects. There's religious aspects.
Religious
to that. Yeah.
And political aspects to that, or protest aspects.
Protest, religious, and there's something about being burned alive. And I was going to get into a little bit of that as well. The history of being
sacrificed
burned
by fire.
Well, not sacrifice necessarily, but of
self-immolation,
execution.
Oh, execution by fire too.
Big deal, right? I mean, in history, that's a one of those things that goes back to the 18th century BC. We're talking way back. We have evidence of executions by fire, which there is literally, I don't think there's any other way to die, in my opinion, more terrifying than being burned alive. I can't imagine. Although I know that you typically die before you actually burn alive. I mean, there's a lot of other ways that you die.
Sure.
When fires, but as an execution method, being burned at the stake or being burned as a form of execution is fucking horrible.
What about like being quartered and stretched?
I mean,
that's torture.
Maybe, but I don't know.
It might last longer.
I would probably rather be drawn and quartered than burned alive.
Oh, I don't know.
Pull my limbs apart. That sounds kind of interesting.
Well, let's play the death. Would you rather?
Would you rather game? Would you rather be drawn and quartered or I think I would rather be drawn and quartered than burned alive. How long does it take? I'm pretty sure if you're drawn and quartered, you're dead pretty fucking quick. You're bleeding out fast. I don't know. No,
but you got to get to the drawing and quartering first, right? So they got to pull your limbs apart and then your bones are out of your sockets, right? But your skin is still there.
Yeah.
So then you got to wait for your skin and muscle to rip. Ugh. That takes a while, hun.
Well, let me give you a couple of.
I'm arguing for self.
Let me give you a couple of examples, right? So executions by fire go all the way back to 18th century BC. It was said that one of the most famous, at least in my studies, because I studied theology and historical stuff. Nero, the Roman Emperor Nero, used to when he was persecuting Christians, use them as candles. They said he used them as candles in his gardens. So he would basically burn them alive. But my favorite though was during the Reformation. Like during the Reformation, which was 16th century. Well, kind of started in the 14th century.
Did you say my favorite?
My favorite. Yeah, my favorite.
You're so fun.
Well, I loved it because I loved the Reformation because like people were so committed to their beliefs, and people we have a hard time in our society with people who are really just devoted to their convictions. And I find that to be a good quality. I like people who are steadfast in what they believe. I think that's a really cool quality to have. And if you go back to medieval and Renaissance Europe, those people were fucking committed, like to the point where, like, if you were with the Catholic Protestant stuff going on in Europe in the 14th, 15th, 16th century, if you like didn't believe in a certain thing, like a small little part of doctrine or a small little part of, I don't baptize babies, I baptize adults. Like, okay, you don't believe what we believe about baptism? We'll just tie a stone around your foot and drop you in the river.
Okay, but like
that's how we would deal with that. Like you're a heretic, so we're gonna just do the worst thing to you.
I feel like you're describing cults.
No, but it's not though. I mean, like it was just people who believed that those things were so important. And I don't think it's cult. It's not cults. It's just people who believed who held very firmly to
Hitler held firm beliefs.
Sure.
Is that correct?
Sure. And so does everybody in our country right now with their, with the left views and the right views. They all have very fervently held beliefs. And we sit here
over it is very different.
Well, but here's the thing. The people that
burning someone alive.
Here's the thing that people don't understand. And it's because of our society now. Our society now doesn't get it. They don't get that, especially if you look back in history, those types of worldviews were held. It wasn't just your belief, your it's just my personal belief. This is just my belief. And you have your beliefs and you have my beliefs.
They were societal beliefs.
It was societal beliefs. It was culture. And we see it now in other countries and we don't understand it. We have a very hard time processing why it is that somebody gets stoned in the middle of a marketplace or why somebody gets, and it seems very primitive and maybe it is. It's probably just our base human instincts. But, the Catholic and Protestant stuff going on in Europe, if the Catholics found out that the Protestants, that there was a Protestant, in their midst, they would burn them at the stake. And if the Protestant found out there was a Catholic in their midst that did certain things or was spreading their Catholic message, they would burn them at the stake.
So why do you think that sector of religion utilized fire in I feel like that's a negative manner, right? As a punishment. Whereas if you look at other cultures, like in India, widows will throw themselves onto the husband's funeral pyres as
a sacrifice, self-sacrifice.
Right. To assure themselves into heaven with their husbands.
Right.
And so why the difference? That's super stark difference.
Well, it's not different. I don't think it is at all. Actually, martyrs in those periods of time gladly took upon themselves that.
There's a difference between punishing someone with fire, though, and then gladly taking it on.
But so like somebody like that, like a woman who throws themselves on her husband's.
That's a martyr. Well, not a martyr. But
she's not a martyr. She's gladly taking on that sacrifice.
Right.
But in medieval times, not medieval, but in that Renaissance period or Reformation period, a lot of those martyrs gladly took up martyrdom because they knew. And honestly, if you go back to early religious history.
Can't spell martyrdom without dumb.
I don't know about that. I mean, I kind of feel like I would like to believe so deeply in something that I'd be willing to give my life for.
But what could you believe in so deeply that you would walk into fire for? The Khaleesi?
Whatever.
The Mother of Dragons?
The Mother of Dragons.
That's what I would
like if you look at like Joan of Arc, Joan of Arc's
her.
Always been revered, right? As a martyr.
Sure.
Right. And she was burned at the stake. And there was if you look at there was tons of people, like Thomas Cranmer and all these people in this period of time. They loved fire so much in this period of time that the Catholic Church, John Wycliffe, who was one of the early reformers of the church in the 14th century, after he died and they realized how influential he was, the Catholic Church dug up his bones and burned him again in effigy, because that was how much they felt like. I'm going to. You already dead. You already dead, motherfucker.
But I want to. But
I am going to kill you again.
I want to.
Burning an effigy was something they loved to do. They just loved to pull bodies up and then burn them, to like a symbolic thing of how
penciled down
a big deal burning was.
That's one thing I wanted to touch on was this idea of like this fascination or this love or this intense infatuation with fire. We often hear it referred to as pyromania or pyrophilia, which is my favorite. So pyromania is different, as pyrophilia really has to do with the sexual gratification from fire or from watching things burn.
So is that same as like an arsonist or somebody who
an arsonist often has pyromania. Pyrophilia
is a sexual thing.
Sexual gratification.
Is that like people who like love to like throw candle wax on each other and like burn?
Maybe, I don't know. But when it comes to pyromania, the Son of Sam, Trailside Killer, they were all adolescent fire starters.
Right.
We see it as a common
Big
trait
thing with serial killers.
in psychopathy.
Right.
Serial killers, primarily male, pyromania. In a study of 90 arsonists, only 3, though, met the criteria for pyromania. So we're talking, it has to be pretty severe. Arson has to be, arson is a motivated thing, whereas pyromania is a self-motivated thing. So you're getting nothing from it. Freud now, he noted that the phallic nature of tongues in flames implied something inherent with sexuality.
Freud is so full of shit.
Right?
Tongues in flames.
He also, you have no idea. I have
his
more
tongues and his anuses and his mouths and his penises. That guy just saw sexual innuendos and everything.
I have so much more. He also noted that early man probably would have put out fires with their own urine, which would suggest an inherently homoerotic tendency
I've totally done that.
Like a bunch of guys
camping, standing around, just put out the fire. Yeah, oh yeah, we do it all the time.
So
it's always better when a girl does it, though.
So not arson, excuse me. So pyromania has this kind of primitive regression in order to demonstrate that power over nature and gain superiority over adults, especially in adolescence. So that's really interesting how he thought of arson, or not arson, I keep saying arson. He thought of pyromania as this kind of specific thing that was driven by sexuality.
But what do you think I did as a kid with fire? What do kids, well, my generation's kids do? What do we do with fire when we were kids?
Touch it?
WD-40.
Oh shit, I never did that. What's
WD-40. WD-40 and a frickin' lighter.
I think
you could light ants on fire and bugs and and magnifying glass too.
Okay, I did a magnifying glass, but
WD-40 was great because you could make a little flamethrower and you could flamethrower. I haven't eaten today, and I've had two tequilas now.
Oh gosh, honey.
1 tequila, 2 tequila,
3 tequila floor. So yeah,
the magnifying glass thing was a big thing too. Lighting stuff on fire was a big draw.
Well, it is still how they light the flame for the Olympics is through mirrors and the sun.
Really?
Yeah, they still light it through that way. But so this psychopathy, this psychopathic trait of kind of setting fires, not arson. Arson has a motive, right? Whereas,
so it's pyromania. It's different than arson.
Yeah, okay. It's different than arson. That's what I'm saying. It's part of the McDonald's triad, not the McDonald's triad, but the McDonald's triad.
Not. There's no clown.
No clown. There's no clown feeding you hamburgers. But it's the McDonald's triad is the 3 behaviors that indicate a risk for psychopathy in the future, especially when seen in adolescence. So we've got
killing animals,
fire, animal cruelty, and persistent bedwetting. Persistent bedwetting. And so there was also an example that I ran across too that we need to be mindful of when it comes to just people in general with mental health struggles, is that there are medical and cognitive things that come into play that can present as mental health issues, right? So for instance, there was a Florida man.
Surprise.
A Florida man.
Hashtag Florida.
A Florida man was splashing gas and lighting people on fire.
That sounds like a Florida thing to do. Did he eat their face afterwards?
I don't know. It would be a nice roasted flavor, right?
It's like marshmallow. You can wait till it gets that nice little crust on the outside before you
does it blow up like a marshmallow does? Oh, gross. Okay. So he was actually the son of a very absent mother. His alcoholic father committed suicide in his early life. And before these incidents, he was in his late 50s. He had no prior arrests or a violent record. Now, what they found was his fire starting was now connected to a feeling of sexual arousal and a release of tension. When they explored further, he actually ended up having cerebral atrophy in certain areas of inhibitory control or impulse control, like I was talking about earlier. So not setting the fires because we know what the fires will cause, but instead setting them because it gives us this gratification.
Mhm.
That's the pyromania, right? So he had this cerebral atrophy, probably from age, or it could have been, I can't say that because it could have been from dementia or Alzheimer's disease
Sure.
as well. And also a seizure disorder that had been left untreated, that had been causing seizures in specific regions of his brain. Once the seizure disorder was treated, his pyromania went away.
That's crazy.
So this specific area of the brain that was, receiving improper electrical messages, having seizure activity, not able to kind of message around with the rest of the brain, caused this pyromania as a symptom, essentially. It sounds like some shit that would have been on House.
Interesting stuff. And I think, fire is such a weird one because, we always think of like the Salem witch trials, well, not Salem witch trials, but the witches in
we find
Europe.
out not a whole lot of people were burned in the same.
Yeah, Salem witch trials were mostly hanging. But in Europe, 40 to 50,000 witches were, women were burned for witchcraft, or people were burned for witchcraft. They weren't all burned. I take that back. A portion of them were burned. Some of them were killed other ways. But this kind of, this fire thing is such a thread throughout all of our history. This fear of fire, this using fire as a weapon, fire as a weapon. I mean, think about that, like napalm, all these things that we use as weapons all have fire as a part of it.
Right. And the mystery and kind of the majesty of fire that we almost romance.
We didn't even talk about Game of Thrones and freaking the Hound.
Well, we can get to that during the movie.
Yeah, the Hound.
But the Hound is intensely fearful of fire because of an event that happened to him. He got his face stuck in fucking fire.
Danny walked into the fire and came out with her freaking eggs, or dragon eggs, and all that.
So there's a lot of symbolism there.
Well, let's transition because we pounded on this one hard, and this is gonna be a long episode, but I like it because it's a good one.
It's a really
interesting one. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, gosh, I would love to dig into so much more of this. Because you can talk about the medical side of it. You can talk about the spiritual side of it. You can talk about there's so many elements of fire. And that's, again, we're talking about like basic earth elements, right?
Yeah.
Like fire is a huge one. But let's dig into our movie, which is a Stephen King book made into a movie. Another 80s flick, which I tend to gravitate towards, I think. But we're going to talk about 1984's Firestarter.
And now our feature presentation.
Charlie McGee is a healthy 8-year-old girl. Normal in every way.
Charlie, now watch what you're doing.
But one.
Did she do that?
What are you going to do with her? I'll bring her here so you can do all your tests. Then you give her to me.
Charlie has the power.
Do something bad? Will you still love me?
She can set things on fire.
Something's happening in there.
With just a glance. It is a power she does not want.
Stick with him.
Daddy, I'm scared.
So am I, honey.
A power she cannot control.
Back up.
And each night, she prays to be just like every other child.
We haven't got her yet. We'll have her.
But there are those who will do everything in their power to find her. To control her.
Charlie!
And maybe destroy her.
Charlie! Come to me, Charlie. Go!
You're gonna have to burn it down. Burn it all down.
Charlie McGee is Stephen King's Firestarter. Will she have the power to survive?
All right, 1984's Firestarter, Stephen King. A movie in which Stephen King, this is the best. A movie in which Stephen King said was one of the worst movies made from my books, flavorless, like cafeteria mashed potatoes.
Oh, man.
And Roger Ebert said, most astonishing thing about Firestarter was how boring it is.
I disagree.
I kind of disagree
Little
too.
Drew Barrymore lights my heart cuckles on fire.
Your heart cuckles?
Cuckles on
Cockles?
fire. Cockles.
Warms the cockles of your earballs?
Warms the cockles of my earballs. She's
So,
adorable.
She's adorable. I gotta say, I mean, it drags a little bit. It's a little bit of a draggy movie. It's not the most exciting thing.
It doesn't make sense
in the world. It makes sense.
Nah.
I don't know.
Okay. If it didn't make sense, why he's got this like mind control, right? He used the payphone to like get
Hold on.
out.
Don't get into any sort of thing yet. Let's synopsize it first, at least a little bit. We talked about all of this fire.
I like it.
Phobia stuff.
There's a lot of holes. There's so many holes. There's so many
holes.
There's so many boring holes.
Oh my gosh, there's no boring holes.
There's all of the boring holes.
I disagree.
Kind of.
Oh, we're gonna rumble.
I still enjoyed it.
We're gonna rumble. All right, let's give you the synopsis of this this wonderful little pyrokinesis this X-Men prequel.
Synopsis.
I call this an X-Men prequel.
Imagine badass guitar intro and go.
Yeah, there was a lot of badass guitar intro from Tangerine Dream.
Tangerine Dream
was the music in this movie.
Oh my god, that's horrible. So bad.
So we got Charlie McGee. She's a happy, healthy 8-year-old girl, normal in every way but one. She has the power to set objects afire with just one glance.
Handy.
It's power. It's a power she does not want.
Well, no, it's a lot of power.
It's a power she cannot control. And each night, Charlie prays
She has no prefrontal cortex.
to be just like every other child. But there are those who will do everything in their power to find her, control her, or destroy her. Charlie McGee is Stephen King's Firestarter. Will she have the power to survive? That was actually that was the ads they ran when the that's not even the synopsis. That's the ads they ran on TV and on the written
Trailer.
ads.
Oh, the written ads.
But the regular synopsis is, as use, Annie McGee, played by David Keith, and his future wife, Vicky, Heather Locklear, participated in secret experiments, allowing themselves to be experiments.
It's not like spearmint. It's like pearmint.
Experiments. That's not the right word, is it? Experiments.
Experiments.
Shut up. Secret experiments. Bull.
Bull.
All right. Are you done?
Yes, I'm sorry.
You gonna stop your commentating while I'm giving the synopsis? Good Lord.
From your encyclopedia.
Starting over, as youths, Andy McGee, played by David Keith, and his future wife, Vicky, played by Heather Locklear, participated in secret experiments. Or experiments. Either way, tomato. Allowing themselves to be subjected to mysterious medical tests. Years later, the couple's daughter, Charlie, played by Drew Barrymore, begins to exhibit the ability of setting fires solely with her mind. The volatile talent makes the youngster extremely dangerous, and soon she becomes a target for the enigmatic agency known as the Shop.
She's not dangerous intentionally, though. She just has emotion regulation issues because she's growing her prefrontal lobe.
And she also has pyrokinesis, which is tough. It's tough to deal with.
That's a really
so we have
that's
David,
a lot of power.
We have David Keith as Annie McGee. We have Heather Locklear as Vicky.
For like 5 seconds.
For like a minute, yeah. We have Drew Barrymore as Charlie. Then we have Martin Sheen as Captain Hollister. And then we got some heavy hitters here. We got George C. Scott as John Rainbird. And Art Carney as Irv Manders. And Louis Fletcher as Norma Manders. So that's our cast.
Heather Locklear is only in it for like 5 seconds. Because she gets lit on fire by the mom.
No, she doesn't.
I know.
She doesn't actually.
She does get lit on fire by the mom, and then the mom gets killed by the agency.
No, she gets lit on fire by the daughter.
Sorry, the mom gets lit on fire by the daughter.
By Drew Barrymore.
And then gets caught by
Then the shop comes and gets her and kills her. Yeah.
But still.
So she didn't kill her. In the beginning, we
But a mom died, and you made me watch this movie on Mother's Day.
Mothers being killed on Mother's Day. But this is based on the 1980 Stephen King book that called Firestarter. And what was interesting was apparently Drew Barrymore's mom, they were walking through the grocery store and they saw the paperback of Firestarter on the rack. And Drew Barrymore's mom said, "That little girl looks just like you." And then later she became the part.
Well, geez.
Interesting. It was directed by Mark Lester, which, okay, here's the deal with this movie, right? This movie, I enjoy it. It's a fun little movie.
It's fun.
This movie could have been so much better if they had gone with the original director. Do you know who was slated to direct this movie?
No, who?
John frickin' Carpenter was the original director of this movie.
So dark.
So good. It would have been so fucking good if John Carpenter had been able to do a Stephen King adaptation. Would have been so rad. You know why they fired him?
Because it was too good?
Because The Thing, which in my opinion is John Carpenter's greatest movie of all time, it bombed. And so they said, "Oh, you fucked up The Thing, and we don't want you to be our director anymore."
Whoopsie.
Even though The Thing has become
iconic,
a fucking iconic cult classic horror movie.
I find that
which
the
I
movies
love.
that everybody hates when they come out, they're like a fine wine.
So they fired him. He had already like gotten screenwriters. They'd already done all this stuff for it. They'd done tons of stuff for it. And then they brought this guy, Mark Lester, who is famous for Roller Boogie from the 70s, a roller skating movie that you should have seen.
Roller Boogie?
Roller Boogie. Class of 1984, which is kind of a cool apocalyptic kind of, it's kind of a fun little movie. And Commando, which is actually a fun little Arnold Schwarzenegger / Alyssa Milano when she was like 8 years old movie.
Alyssa Milano.
She was a kid though, like kid. That's what he was famous for. So he ended up making the movie. But dude, if John Carpenter directed this thing, it could have been so much cooler. But basically this movie is the story of Jane Grey, Phoenix from X-Men.
Yeah.
I mean, that is it's like pyrokinesis. This was X-Men movies before X-Men movies, Avengers movies before Avengers movies. Because you got this little girl who's got these pyrokinetic powers and she can light shit on fire with her mind.
And think about like all the posts that you've seen, like, "Oh, I'm an asshole parent because I wouldn't let my toddler eat just ketchup for dinner." Like, think about that, but with fire power.
Well, with the girl, who's like, "I'm going to light you on fire if you piss me off." You know,
kids are going through.
My toddler threw a tantrum because I wouldn't let him play with his invisible friend.
Right. I wouldn't get him the same shoes as his friend Patrick, but he has no friend Patrick.
But Patrick doesn't exist because he's invisible. Or, what were some of the other ones?
She cried for 30 minutes because the mom wouldn't let her dog drive her to school.
Let the dog drive her to school.
Yeah. That was
yeah. So imagine growing up and realizing.
Hold on. The best one was threw a tantrum because he said the water was too wet. In the bath.
It's too wet.
The water's too wet.
So we see the beginning and we see that mom and dad have gone through this medical test experiment where
they were like tripping balls.
They gave him this drug, right? This like experimental drug. And they're all of a sudden they're talking to each other telepathically and going, "What the fuck, man? Like, I just thought that. I didn't say that to you." And then everybody else around them who took the drugs or were in the experiment,
they're having a terrible time.
They're having a really bad time. They're bleeding from their eyeballs.
Horribly.
The dude bleeding from his eyeballs was the best, though. Like,
he
bleeding from
poked
his eyeballs.
Own eyeballs out.
Was that what happened?
Yeah.
Oh, he poked his own eyeballs out?
He like ripped his own eyeballs.
I didn't know. I thought he was just bleeding from his eyeballs.
Why would you do that?
Well, because he took this drug that made him bleed from his eyeballs.
Oh, maybe. I thought it was way worse than that. I was like, "Oh, gross, no."
So we got this, and then they have a baby. They get together. Heather Locklear, David Keith. They come out of it cool and all telekinetic and shit, and they have a baby, and that's Drew Barrymore, and she is fresh off of E.T. 2 years before, so she's a little bit older, and she is really good in this movie. Like, as a child actor, she was really
before
good.
all the cocaine and stuff.
Well, what was funny was you were like, "I'm so glad that Drew Barrymore like made it through as a child actor and didn't have any problems." And I'm like, Chris, Kris?
You broke my heart.
You realize she was like a cocaine addict at like 12 years old,
I had
right?
no idea.
She was like the youngest freaking drug addict ever.
I was like, she's so pure and innocent.
She was like drinking fifths of vodka and doing coke at like 12, 13 years old.
Let's just say that.
She literally went into rehab at 14. But she was great in this movie. But you know what's so funny was I've been watching these. There's a new Dark Phoenix X-Men movie with Sansa Stark, with the Sophie Turner starring, and the ads are so freaking
They're pretty similar.
Firestarter. It's just her hair like sticking out all fiery and all that stuff. But it's not
sticking out. It's blowing in the wind because the wind helps generate more fire. Right?
That's just the show of their telekinetic powers or whatever, pyrokinetic powers.
Its own wind. So, but I like that. She's like mind firing people, and her hair is like
mind firing. Can you do that to the camera? But there's some cool shit in this movie, and so basically they go through and she's got these powers, and of course there's this secret government agency that started this whole process to begin with.
And they're chasing
that knows about her, and they're chasing her down. And
can I just tell you one of my favorite parts?
What's your favorite part?
When he goes to rescue her from the shop. The shop? Is that what it's called?
Well, that's the group. The shop is like the secret government agency.
Secret government agency. When he goes to rescue him from the shop, they have her in the van. And before all this, like, we knew that he had telekinesis, and he could have just been like,
stop.
Ooh, you guys don't see
Stop doing what you're doing.
We don't look like this. But
these are not the droids you're looking for.
But instead, he's like, give me my child. And then he's like, you killed my wife. You're blind.
You're blind.
You killed my wife. You're blind.
My eyes.
Like, why that, though? Like, you could have done anything. Why
killed him? You could have, like, chopped off his balls.
You're blind.
Like.
I don't know what's my favorite part. You killed my wife. You're blind.
Not like you're dead, or I'm going to or I'm going to make you like rip your own face off. Or,
you will internally, spontaneously combust. Something like that.
So the shop ends up capturing the dad the dad and David Keith and Drew Barrymore
man for the shop,
and so they bring him back to this compound, right? And they separate dad and daughter. And then we have John Rainwater, who's played by George C. Scott, which
he is the hitman.
He's like a hitman / agent, but Native American and missing an eyeball.
And he karate chops people in the nose to kill them. And
karate chops people in the nose to kill their face. Yeah, he knows how to kill people with one
karate chop.
Like when you're a kid and you're like, you heard about, I could do this thing, and I could just drive your bone right up into your brain and you'd be dead.
It's like that.
That's
but
like
karate chops.
So John Rainwater knows how to do that. And he's like some sort of I don't know what is like. He was. I was so confused as to his character.
Yeah, I didn't understand it. They didn't develop it at all.
But he becomes so basically they get her to do her superpowers, and she shows them how to do that. She can do it,
and they're all impressed because they want to harness her like a little war pet.
Yeah, well, but then
figure out how to make more.
Rainwater wants to kill her. He wants to kill him because he's like, this is going to be bad. She is eventually going to be able to like create a nuclear bomb with her own hands.
Right. I mean, there's some validity there.
That's this is the X-Men backstory.
I mean, the way he goes about it is wrong.
This is the Avengers backstory. This is what
Avengers,
X-Men, all of them, right? Aren't they all associated with each other? Kind of.
I don't know.
Somewhat. They're all Marvel, right?
Is X-Men Marvel? I don't remember.
X-Men's Marvel.
Oh, okay. I thought it was DC. I could swear it was DC.
No, DC is Superman and Batman and
I always get them confused.
Those guys are not the same. All the nerds just got so mad at you just now.
I know. I'm sorry, nerds. I'm sorry for.
But yeah, so we got like basically this whole like, do we harness their power for good, or do we kill them, or do we? It's the same story. I just watched Endgame. This is the same story storyline that's been going on for all these movies. So, anyways, as it progresses, of course, she ends up at the end. They kill her dad.
Yeah.
And her dad basically says, burn them all to the fucking ground, and she just goes off, and she just becomes like pyrokinesis, superhero, badass. And she kind of goes Dark Phoenix, right? She goes she goes all like, I'm just going to kill them all.
She controls
kills everybody
too. And, she can
block bullets.
Creating like
Fireballs. Yeah,
And, like,
fireballs at the end where
it's
she's
much
shooting
more-
fireballs.
It's much more intentional fire starting, as opposed to like the chaotic fire starting that we
For
saw
sure.
earlier.
For sure. So she ends up killing them all, killing all these guys, and somehow getting away. We don't see what happens. We just all of a sudden see
But
her.
she goes back to the old man at the farm.
So she goes back. So earlier in the movie, she had gone to this. Her and her dad were hitchhiking, trying to get away from these people, and they ended up at a farmhouse with this nice old farmer and his wife,
And his very skeptical Nurse Ratched wife.
Yes. So his wife was played by so the farmer is played by Art Carney from the Honeymooners. Some of you might anybody who's seen the Honeymooners, probably not very many of you.
What? Anyone who's seen
Ralph Cramden, To the Moon, Alice. I mean, some people have probably seen the Honeymooners.
Not
But he was
everyone
the
is as
sidekick.
old
He was the
as you.
skinny sidekick in the Honeymooners, Art Carney. But he was also, this is my favorite part though, he was in one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes, the one with the Santa Claus, where he becomes Santa Claus. He's like a homeless guy and he becomes Santa Claus, and he starts giving people anything they want. They get all the presents they want from him. Which was Night of the Meek was the episode.
Night of the Meek.
Night of the Meek was what it was
The
titled.
Meek shall inherit the earth.
Yeah. And then the wife is Louise Fletcher, who was in a ton of stuff in the 50s and 60s. She was in Maverick and Lawman and Untouchables, all these cool 50s TV series. But she won an Oscar and Art Carney actually won an Oscar as well. So he's an Oscar winner. He won an Oscar for something. I can't remember what movie it was. But Louise Fletcher won an Oscar for Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest, which is
Amazing.
a classic. Yeah. And that was that Nicholson?
Yeah.
Was in that? Right?
Yeah, early
Nicholson. And yeah, she was Nurse Ratched. And so she plays this like farmer's kind of skeptical wife. And
Why'd you bring these strange
and then
hitchhikers?
George C. Scott is also an Oscar winner. So 3 Oscar winners in this movie.
And they did
he
that
won for
terribly?
Patton.
That's all
It's
writing.
not. It wasn't a bad movie. Like it wasn't. Well, Roger Ebert thought it was poorly acted. I didn't think it was poorly acted. It was just kind of boring.
I feel like
It could have been way better.
I feel like if you have actors that have won Academy Awards, you didn't have a script that gave them the ability
to really
to showcase
shine.
their talent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sorry,
John
script
Carpenter
writers.
with the same crew might have been badass.
Right.
You know what's funny too is Nurse Ratched is still acting. She is 84 years old.
There's Ratched.
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 I always said Ratchet,
Ratched.
but it's Ratched. It's ED at the end.
Oh.
It's not Ratchet.
Ratched.
It's Ratched.
Ratched. Huh.
Nurse Ratched.
You learn something new every day.
I know, right? I always assumed it was Ratchet.
Right.
But she is still acting. She played, if you've seen Shameless, the show Shameless, Frank Gallagher's mom is Louise Fletcher.
Huh.
Oh, and she was also she's had a couple of creepy ass roles. Nurse Ratched was one. She was also the grandmother in Flowers in the Attic, which is a fucking creepy, like incestuous, strange ass, freaking creepy movie. Super creepy. So kind of a fun, it has a fun cast. Drew Barrymore actually wasn't the original person they had planned for this role. They were going to have Heather O'Rourke, who was the little girl in Poltergeist.
Oh,
she was the original.
She would have been good too.
She was the original choice.
Although
for that role,
I think there's just a sassiness about
Drew Barrymore did great. A young Jennifer Connelly also auditioned for the role.
Interesting
too. So kind of a fun movie. I honestly don't think I had ever seen it start to finish. I'm kind of on a King kick right now because I'm reading The Outsider, which is one of his newer books.
Mm-hmm.
And been listening to a bunch of stuff about King movies, and
well, the new
it's coming
Rock
out.
Is coming out.
Is a new Castle Rock coming out?
Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
The new It's coming out. The second part is coming out like next month. You haven't seen the first one yet, so shut up.
I don't care.
I'm showing it to you. We're gonna watch it soon.
No.
Yes, and then we're gonna go to the theater.
No, you'll have to Clockwork Orange style.
We are going to. Yeah, I'm gonna pull your eyeballs apart and make you watch it.
I'm good. No.
Come on.
You're blind.
No, and then we're gonna go. My eyes.
It's gonna be my response to everything.
So, if you were a pyrophobic, Firestarter would probably freak you out.
Oh yeah.
A little girl who can just, make you start on fire.
I'm really terrified of that anyways. That's a lot of power for someone so young to harness. Not that they couldn't, but that's just a lot to expect of a child.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
Can you imagine Drew Barrymore like pulling her top up to David Letterman and then just shooting fireballs out of her boobs?
Pew, 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 pew. That's right.
Did you do
forgot
that?
She did that. Oh my gosh.
You know what really sucks though?
What?
Santa Clarita Diet.
I know.
That they canceled that.
Rip.
Did we already talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well,
still rip.
I'm still pissed because that was a great show. And Drew Barrymore was great in that show.
She was.
And what's his name? The other guy
he's
that's
so
in
hot.
it. Yeah, you like that guy. What's his name?
You're asking me.
He was on Deadwood, right?
Yeah.
Deadwood. And,
the Deadwood movie's coming out too.
Yeah. So
what are we doing next week?
I don't know yet. I don't know. But I do
excited.
know that if you come out to horror movie night next week, we're going to show Sleepaway Camp.
Ooh, Sleepaway Camp.
Should be
That's one
fun.
of my favorites.
So what do you think, hon? Come on.
I
give me
think
something.
nothing.
You think nothing? Nothing at all?
Yeah, I think we should wrap up.
What? You don't want to have some more banter?
I think we bantered enough.
I think fire is a big one. That was a big phobia.
It was real interesting to dive into.
I really got kind of caught up in a lot of the history of just fire is such a central, weird.
Just a big role it plays in so many things.
Well, and think about just how many catastrophes and things that go on every day that are associated with fire. Ooh, Hindenburg. That's a good one. Way to pull that one out.
I know
Explode.
things.
Boom.
Aside from psychology.
But with that, yeah, let's wrap it up. I think we need to push our Patreon again. We're gonna have some cool merchandise soon. Push our horror movie night, which you guys need to come out to. 8 p.m. if you're in Reno at Taste Chicago. And that's pyrophobia and arson-phobia, which mean the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Pyrophobia sounds cooler.
It does.
Yeah.
It's easier.
So with that, guys, until next time.
Stay afraid. Stay very afraid.